Hey guys, back with another Reddit story. I went with a little different subreddit this time. It's the subreddit Relationship Advice. This one was posted by Throwaway Pink Jelly. I, 30 female, told my doctor I would sue him if he touched me and delivered our son on all fours and embarrassed my husband, 32 male. Okay, as I work on the NICU, I don't understand why this is embarrassing. Sometimes mothers do birth on all fours. As long as the baby is healthy, that's what I always say. My husband frequents Reddit. Just not this subreddit, I don't think, hence the throwaway. 2 weeks ago, I had my son. My labor was 24 hours long. Yeesh. Probably your first birth. My son was not moving. I could tell the doctor was getting impatient before he left. I asked for an epidural, but it just didn't seem to be working. I could still feel everything. I have broken both my legs. Ooh. I have been stabbed. It was an accident, but it went in one side of my thigh and out the other. What? Okay. How do you accidentally get stabbed through both of your thighs? You need to do a Reddit story about that. Anywho. However, I have never been in the pain I was in that room. Well, yeah, that's childbirth. Surprise! When the doctor finally said I was crowning, my son still didn't come. There was a barrage of things. They needed to get him out. He said he was going to give me a little cut. Yeah, it's called an episiotomy, which, if y'all don't know, that's a little cut from the vagina, like towards your anus, so that, it can help ease the baby coming out. I told him that at the moment the anesthesia wasn't working, so not to. He grabbed something from the table. My husband was all, everything is going to be okay, blah, blah. Yeah, because they're not in the pain. But yeah, he was trying to comfort you. I sat up, and as the doctor got closer, I told him I would fucking sue him for his lifeblood if he touched me with those scissors. I do remember shoving my husband when he reached for my arm, like he was holding me back from attacking the doctor, which I was not going to do. It is all blurry from there, but I apparently got on my hands and knees. I remember squatting, but whatever, and pushed my son out. I did not tear badly, thankfully, for the record. Actually, it's kind of good if you tear, because when you get an episiotomy, it's kind of like, they stitch it up and it's like a clean cut, but when it tears, it kind of meshes back together. It heals better, I guess, for those of you that didn't know. I was still half delirious when I said I wanted all the men out, this including my husband, and screamed for them to get out until they did. Then apparently proceeded to lay calmly while the nurses tended to everything, and I believed a female doctor came in and asked me some questions, some pertaining to a lawsuit. But I was delirious, holding my son, etc. One of the nurses that was with me made me feel better and said, sometimes mothers just know best, and they called me a champ. That's, yeah, I mean, sometimes, yes. I mean, if your body was telling you to get on all fours and this is the way that the baby was going to get out or come out, then that was the best birthing plan for you. But I wouldn't see the doctors or the nurses as the evil people here. You do know we're trying to help you. We want to make sure that you and the baby survive. That's the whole goal. We're on the same team. But I can understand how if you feel like you don't have any anesthesia and somebody comes at you with a scissor or a scalpel, you're going to freak out. But in the end, you have to think of, okay, what's best for the child? Because we've seen children get stuck in the birthing canal and die. So that's probably something this mother did not know could happen. We do. So yeah, it's hard seeing it from the other side, but I do understand her fear. But we're thinking more about the health of you and the baby. If you are the nurse who said that, I would just like to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Yeah, oh, that's sweet. It was an hour and a half before I was feeling myself again and said my husband could come in. I still felt shaky and horrible whenever I think of it. The idea of even going back into the doctor's office for checkups makes me want to vomit. I don't think I'll ever trust a doctor again, and I certainly will never be having any more children. Yeah, you say that now, but I mean, okay, this seemed like a big trauma for you, but most people, like, if it was that bad, then nobody would have more than one child. I think, you'll hopefully get over this trauma, and then, maybe next time you'll schedule a C-section or whatever. But yeah, my husband hasn't left me alone about kicking him out of the delivery room, which is understandable. It's also his child. And he keeps saying how embarrassing it was for him and the doctor, even after I explained that the doctor was going to give me an episiotomy without my permission. Yeah. He just keeps saying the doctor knew best, even though he told me to push my son out. Well, isn't that what you're supposed to do? Every time he says it feels like I've been resenting him more and more. On top of that, I've been having some really crappy nightmares about my husband grabbing me and restraining me in that moment. So I am not sure if I'm not being understanding enough, because I'm sure he was embarrassed. But I'm just finding it hard to be empathetic, which is not normally the norm for me. I just like some outside opinions. And again, yes, I'm speaking to my therapist. Good. That's what I was going to say. This sounds like a trauma. But I'd like some impartial views. Well, your therapist should be impartial. I mean, asking random people on the internet. Yeah, okay. All right. Well, I guess if you didn't write it, then I would have nothing to read out loud. So I'm happy for that. Please forgive my mistakes. I'm trying to write this while breastfeeding. How do you gain more empathy? Or is this as insensitive and offensive as it feels? I would like to add this. I have a family full of doctors and medical practitioners, two brothers and a cousin who raised me in the family like a sister, whom I love and trust. I hate to say this has made me distrustful of the other people in their career path, but it has. My issue was with my distrustful of his treating me like a human, then not informing me fully, and then his ignoring me saying no, which justified my belief, in my opinion. I had full trust in the doctors prior to this experience. However, I'm not blind to the fact within all sectors, there are people who are good and bad at their jobs, and some who are just in the career for money. Well, that might ring true in the US, but here in Sweden, we don't get paid that much. So I would like to think that most of us literally do it because we actually love our job. I do understand if you have people in your family that know things, it can kind of make you a little scared, because like doctors, nurses, everyone, we're just human too. We make errors too. I think that's a perception that people think that we know everything. We don't always know everything. We are also human, you know? But I think, as this woman said, she was delirious. So if I'm thinking from the doctor's point of view or the nurse's point of view, if you have a delirious woman, or, like a woman that's, like highly, anxiety ridden, and doesn't quite understand what's going on, that's also a difficult situation to be put in as a healthcare worker. How do we calm down this patient? How do we make sure that this patient understands what we're trying to do, that we're just here to help, and so on and so forth? I don't think this doctor really, it sounds like this doctor didn't quite explain everything that was going on, and that's what caused the distrust and the freaking out. It's been a long day and night, and I've asked my husband to stay at his mother's house. I no longer want him present while I'm healing. This just sounds selfish to me. I'm sorry, but like, it's his baby too. You had a traumatic event, but you also need to think of it. It could have been traumatic for your husband too, to get kicked out of the room where his child was born, and now you won't even let him see that child. I think this is going to cause a rift. Like, mark my words, if this person writes another Reddit story in like a couple months that my husband left me and blah, 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 This is probably why you need to, like, okay, yes, you're the mother, you gave birth, but it's also his child. You need to think about that. Think about your family, your as a whole, not just you. To be clear, this was for a somewhat unrelated but still related issue, because he said this morning for the second time that my tossing and turning kept him up. And so he didn't get enough sleep. Again, I think this is an issue that is difficult for me to find empathy in, as the nightmare that I've been having involves his actions. I'm trying to be as calm and logical as possible, and I will be looking into an additional therapist that specializes in medical trauma. This is just one big cluster fuck. Let's see what some people said. It is blurry from there, but I apparently got on my hands and knees. I remember squatting, but whatever, and pushed my son out. My wife delivered all three of our children on our hands and knees. Laying on your back is for the convenience of the medics. You listened to your body and did the right thing. Okay. Yes, but what about all the rest? Somebody else said, this is how I delivered two of my kids. It was the only position that I was able to control my breathing and focus. Fortunately, where I live, the person giving birth is given the freedom to birth in whatever position they want. Yeah, but guys, come on. There's like so much more than just the hands and knees thing. My midwife basically flipped me over from back to all fours when my son was crowning 8 months ago. I'm super grateful she did it, because it made all the difference, and he popped out in minutes. In hindsight, I would have gotten on my knees way sooner. It probably would have helped with the pain. Someone else, I know someone who had to argue with their doctor to let her squat. Yeah, see, okay, everyone is just going based off of just the squatting thing. I'm seeing like the whole picture of like the distrust with, like everything, like throwing the doctors out, throwing the husband out, not letting the husband see the baby. And, I don't know if they're living in a place without a couch, but he could sleep on the couch. He doesn't have to go live at his mom's house. Like this just, I think it's good she's going to seek therapy. I wouldn't necessarily seek out the advice of people online, because yeah, they're probably gonna be like, you get that man, blah, blah, blah. Even though it's like, think about the child too. The child and the father have feelings, and the child should be able to bond with its father as well if the father is in the picture. So I feel like I don't understand what's so embarrassing. Like a lot of people give birth on all fours. There's nothing embarrassing about it. So I don't get what this whole big thing is. Yeah, you gave birth on all fours. So what? Doctors, nurses, we've all seen it. Nobody cares. It's not embarrassing. If you were to have said here that your husband thought it was disgusting, or was like, berating you for it, then I can understand why you're pissed off. But getting stuck on this, I mean, birth is not pretty. People do it on all fours. People tear, people bleed, people poop. I mean, it's not exactly like you see in the movies where, they push out a baby and all of a sudden it's like a 3-month-old baby that's all clean and, pristine. That's not what happens. I think this woman went through a trauma. Okay, good. She's getting therapy. But I think it's not a good thing that she's pushing the husband away, especially not now. That's the thing that I would say she really needs to rethink, or do couples therapy, or do trauma therapy with your husband. Do not block him out. That's going to be a big mistake. What do you guys think? Have you guys ever been in a position like this?